Hello and welcome to bonus episode number 117 of the Culips English podcast. My name's Andrew. I will be your host and your English study buddy for the day. I hope you're doing well. And in this episode, I am going to tell you a story about visiting Kelowna, British Columbia during my summer vacation. And Kelowna is my hometown. So I'll tell you all about some of the adventures I got up to while I was back in Kelowna just about 3 or 4 weeks ago. Time flies. It feels like I was just there, but already 3 or 4 weeks have passed. Before I get to my story, let me introduce myself to those of you who are new here. If you are new to Culips, welcome. It's great to have you here. In our bonus episode series, what I do is I just tell you some stories from my everyday life. I'm a Canadian, but I live in Seoul, South Korea. And the reason why I tell you these stories is I want to help you develop your English skills and become a better English communicator. The motto for our bonus episode series is Big B, B-I-G-B, and it stands for build your fluency, increase your cultural knowledge, grow your vocabulary, and become a better and a clearer English communicator. So that's what I'm going to try and help you achieve here. So if you like those goals, if that's what you want to do with your own English learning, then I think you're in the right place and you will enjoy and find this series helpful. And for each bonus episode, we make a 100% free interactive transcript that works well on your computer or your mobile device or your tablet, whatever you want to use. The transcript works well on that, and you can just click on any word and hear the audio from that point. It's a pretty cool tool, if I do say so myself. And there's also a vocabulary glossary that will explain some of the idiomatic language or the difficult language and vocabulary that you'll hear me use in this episode. And it will give you, just a simple definition and an example sentence as well. That's free for everybody. Whether you're a Culips member or not, everybody can get that for free. So check it out. We'll put the link in the description for this episode. And also, if you are one of our supporters, if you are a Culips member, then we'll give you a comprehension quiz as well. So after listening and studying with this episode, then you can take the comprehension quiz and see how much you are able to understand. It's always nice to see your level, right? See how much you are able to understand with a quiz. So that's available if you are a Culips member. Speaking of Culips membership, guys, why don't you sign up and become a Culips member if you're interested in taking your English to the next level, going deeper with your English study? We have great tools and resources and lessons available for our members, including so many things like transcripts and study guides for all of our episodes, not just the bonus episodes. You get to go to our speaking classes that we hold every week. There are several of them every week. You'll get our member-only series, the Fluency Files, which are these short episodes designed to really push your fluency to the next level. You'll get an invitation to the member-only area of our Discord server as well. So many things. I don't want to go on and on and on because it will take me too long. There are a lot of benefits and bonuses that you get when you are a member. And of course, also your support helps us to keep doing what we're doing here at Culips to make English lessons that are fun and exciting and helpful and interesting each and every week. So if you're interested in supporting Culips and taking your English to the next level with us, then please visit our website, culips.com, or you can just follow the link in the description for this episode and sign up and become a member. And of course, a big shout out and thank you to all the members out there who are supporting Culips and improving their English with us. We really do appreciate your support, everyone. Other than that, what other announcements do I have? Well, I want to preview those speaking classes that I told you about just a minute ago, and I'm going to pull them up on my phone here and check them out on our online schedule. Guys, you can just go onto our website, and if you're a Culips member, then you can log into your Culips account, just like I'm doing right now, and you will see the schedule. Importantly, about the schedule, what you want to do is at the top, there is a time zone converter. So you can choose your time zone and choose your city and area, wherever you're located in the world, to see your classes displayed in your time zone. Because I know we have listeners from everywhere, and the times, I can't just say, it starts at 1 p.m. or something, because it's going to be a different time for everybody around the world. But coming up this week, We have classes on September 17th, September 18th, and September 19th. And this week we will be discussing the episode Real Talk number 62. And that was a lesson about what to say when you are misunderstood. So I think this will be a really fascinating class. We'll have some great discussions. The class on the 17th is going to be hosted by Alina, our Discord moderator and one of our study guide writers. The class on the 18th will be hosted by Indiana, another one of our study guide writers and a great teacher. And the class on the 19th will be hosted by moi. The one and only me, okay? So I hope many Culips members out there will join us for these speaking classes. It's a great way to improve your English speaking, to share your opinion, to hear the opinions of others, to improve your listening comprehension, your speaking skills, to get some feedback from our teachers, to make some friends with other Culips members. It's awesome. So I really encourage all of you out there who are members to join our classes if you haven't joined yet. So guys, to see all the information about how to join, we'll do it on Zoom. So you can find, the Zoom address and the password and all those things to join the Zoom session will be in the schedule. So click the link in the description for this episode, check out the schedule, find the time that it's happening in your time zone, and then join us for the class. And I hope to see you there. And now it's time for the main event, the main story for this episode, everyone, where I'm going to talk about visiting Kelowna, British Columbia, my hometown, over my summer vacation. So I hope you enjoy this one. Let's get started with it right now. Here we go. The story that I'm going to tell you guys this week is just a continuation of the recount of my summer vacation. If you've been listening to the Culips bonus episodes over the last couple of weeks, you'll have heard some of my stories from this vacation, but I got up to a lot of things. I visited many places, and I have more stories to tell you. Probably this week, and then maybe next week. And then after a month of vacation stories, well, guys, I promise that I'll switch things up and tell you some more recent happenings in my life. But for today, I'm continuing telling you about my vacation. And in this part of the story, I'm going to tell you about visiting Kelowna, British Columbia, my hometown. So if you listened to last week's bonus episode, I talked about visiting Victoria with my wife. We had an awesome time there, saw some friends, went whale watching, had some other adventures. You can hear all about them in last week's episode. But after our time in Victoria, it was time to go to my hometown, Kelowna, which is, it's about an hour and 15-minute flight. You could also drive, but the drive is long. And I don't actually think there's a direct bus from Victoria to my hometown. And we don't have a car in Canada. So flying was really the only option. And there are several airlines that go from the Victoria airport to the Kelowna airport. I think there were 3 or 4 different airlines that I could choose from when booking the ticket. So I looked through all of them. And I tried to find the one that was the most affordable and also left at the best time that was most convenient for our schedule. And that just happened to be a very small airplane with a local carrier. It wasn't a national carrier. We have 2 big national air carriers in Canada, Air Canada and WestJet, but this was a local regional carrier that only operates in the British Columbia area. And I had actually flown with this airline one time before in the past, several years ago. I had a fine experience with them, and it was on a smaller plane, but it seemed to be okay. And so I booked those airline tickets for my wife and I. And then, when it was time to go to the airport and fly to Kelowna, that's what we did. We went to the airport and we checked in. And right away, we ran into a few problems because we were delayed. Our flight was delayed by an hour and a half or so. And so we had to wait at the airport longer than expected. But, that's kind of par for the course these days, it seems. And that's a nice idiom, par for the course. Maybe even a little foreshadowing into what I'll talk about a little bit later on. But this idiom, par for the course, just means that it's kind of normal or expected these days. And I think at least in Canada, ever since the pandemic, flight service hasn't really returned to what we were used to in the past. There's just seemingly lots of different issues with flying in Canada right now for whatever reason. And so for flights to be canceled or delayed is not as surprising or shocking as maybe we would like it to be. So when I heard that my flight was delayed by an hour or an hour and a half, whatever it was like, okay, it wasn't a huge surprise and we weren't in a rush or anything. So it was fine. We just hung out at the airport. And actually, the reason why the flight was a little bit delayed was because of weather. The weather in Victoria was beautiful. The weather in Kelowna was beautiful. But to get from Victoria to Kelowna, you have to go over a mountain range. And I guess over those mountains, the weather was not so hot. It was stormy. And yeah, I guess the pilots thought, hey, it's a little dangerous, so let's not risk it. We'll just delay for an hour and see what happens. So, okay. No problem. We wait for an hour and then finally it's time to board our plane. And we got onto our plane and my wife suddenly didn't look so happy because I told her it was going to be a smaller plane. This is a smaller local regional airline, but the plane was quite small. There were only, I think, 12 or 13 seats on the plane. Can't remember exactly, but it was really, really small. There were only a handful of us on the plane. It was by far the smallest plane that my wife had ever traveled on. And I think this was a record for me too. I think this was the smallest plane that I had ever traveled on. And yeah, it was just like a few seats on each side of the plane. So it was in just single rows on either side of the plane. So my wife and I couldn't even sit together. I was in the back and she was in front of me. And yeah, suddenly she looked a little nervous. But what made us even a little bit more nervous than that was when it was time to board the plane, the airline staff said, okay, we're going to try to go to Kelowna, but if the weather's bad while we're in the flight, we're going to have to turn around and come to Victoria again, and we'll land back in Victoria. And somebody asked, one of the other passengers was like, what's the probability of that happening? Like, is it likely we're going to go to Kelowna, or are we just likely coming back to Victoria? Because I guess they figured like, if we're just coming back to Victoria, then I might as well not even go in the first place. And the staff was like, it's 50-50. So yeah, that's not like the greatest news that you want to hear right before you're going on a flight, right? Is like, we're going to fly into the storm. We're going to see how it is. And if it's okay, we'll keep going. And if it's really rough, then we'll turn around and go back. And especially when you're in this little plane. And I've flown a lot in my life. My wife has flown quite a bit in her life too. I would say that we're like pretty well traveled, regular airline travelers. But at the same time, I always get a little bit nervous about flying. Even if there's a little bit of turbulence, I'm always one of those people who grabs the seats and the armrest beside me on the seat. It's kind of like, we say white knuckling it. Like on your hands, you have your knuckles. And if you grab something, if you're watching the YouTube version of this, then you'll be able to see what I'm doing here with my hands. I'm going to grab my microphone, but if you grab it really tight, right, the blood in your hands goes out of your fingers. I guess I'm not a doctor, but the blood goes out of your fingers and your knuckles turn more like a white color. So we call it white knuckling it. And that's like what you do if you have a really dangerous experience, like if you're on a dangerous flight and you're holding on for dear life, or maybe you're in a car ride that's really bumpy and you got to white knuckle it. You got to hold on for dear life just to make sure that you're okay. So yeah, I'm not super happy about this fact, but it is just a fact that I'm a little bit of a nervous airline traveler. I don't think I'm the type of person to outwardly look nervous. Maybe because I'm holding on, I look a little bit nervous, but I'm not like one of those people who screams on the airplane whenever there's a little turbulence or bump, but I do kind of, to an extent, white knuckle it. So that's the background, okay? We're flying on this small airplane. We're going to Kelowna. We're going through this storm. We may arrive at our destination. We may not. It's uncertain, but we're going to take off and go for it anyways. And yeah, so that's what we did. We took off. We got into the air. Nice takeoff. Beautiful. We get up to cruising altitude, and the weather was gorgeous. It didn't seem like there was going to be any problems at all. And I was kind of thinking in the back of my mind, we got this, no problems. It's going to be okay. But then as we approached the mountains, about 30 minutes, 35 minutes into the flight, and suddenly the weather started to change. There were more clouds. Suddenly we couldn't see the blue sky anymore. And we were just like right in the middle of these clouds. And then an announcement came from the pilot. And the pilot said, we got this. We can go through this storm. Everybody, it's going to be bumpy. An advanced warning for you here. There's going to be quite a bit of turbulence, but we can make it to Kelowna. And so, it's not really what I wanted to hear. Like, it's going to be bumpy. We're going to go through this storm. We're going to make it. I guess, I always put my trust in the pilots. And we all do anytime we ever fly on an airplane or we take a public city bus, anything like this where there's another driver. We're always putting our trust and our faith in the pilots or in the drivers to get us to our destination safely, right? But in that moment, I really had to put my faith and my trust in the pilot and be like, okay, this guy's got some experience. He knows what he's doing. And I have no idea about how to fly an airplane. And of course, it's too late now. I can't turn around. So I'm just going to have to sit here and hope that he gets us to our destination correctly. And of course, my wife was sitting in front of me. My wife is Korean. She's not a native English speaker. And on this little airplane, you can imagine the announcement that comes out, right? It's not like crystal clear audio or anything. So she's kind of turning around, asking me, what did the pilot say? Is it going to be okay? I just gave her the thumbs up, like, yeah, don't worry. He's got this. We're going to go through the storm. And that's what we did. We went through the storm and it was pretty turbulent. There was a lot of bumping up and down. And when the rain started to hit the plane too, it was super loud. Like the sound of the rain hitting the plane was really loud, and it wasn't a fun experience. I was pretty nervous and my wife was pretty nervous, but thankfully the distance is not too far. So we passed through the storm. I mean, it felt like we were in there for hours, but it was probably only like 20 minutes. And then we were able to pass through that rough weather. We had a safe landing. The weather in Kelowna was totally fine. So once we got through the storm, we were able to land okay and arrive at our destination safely. We were a little bit late, delayed at the start there, but we arrived safely, all in one piece. All was good, but it was a white knuckle ride for both my wife and for me. And yeah, I think my wife said, next time if we ever do this flight again, don't book this small little airplane. Please book a bigger airplane for us. I don't know if there's any, I'd have to check the safety record. I have a feeling that size of airplane is pretty safe anyways, but yeah, I think next time we'll book a bigger flight, at least so we could sit beside each other. So we arrived in Kelowna, in the end, in one piece. We were totally fine. Everything was okay. And the main reason why we went to Kelowna is that it's where my parents live. It's also where my brother lives. And yeah, just to spend some family time. It's where I grew up as well, although I don't have too many friends who actually live in Kelowna anymore. Most of them have left. So the main purpose of that visit was to spend time with my family. My sister, who doesn't live in Kelowna anymore, she lives in Vancouver, but she also came up. So we were able to have a mini family reunion, all of my family plus my wife. So that was really nice. And we stayed at my brother's house. My brother, unfortunately, I think I mentioned this in the last episode, he works outside of town and he has to do these long shifts at his job site. So when he leaves town, he's gone for a few weeks and then he comes back. He's kind of back and forth all the time, in and out of town. And he was out of town like the day after we arrived. So we got to spend a little bit of time together, him and my wife and my whole family. But then after that, my brother had to take off for work. And so that was sad, but also kind of worked out well because that meant his apartment was empty. So we were able to stay at my brother's place. And the reason why I like staying at my brother's place is that he lives in the central kind of downtownish, just a little bit outside of the downtown area of Kelowna. And my parents live quite far away from the town center. And so that makes it a little bit inconvenient whenever you want to go into town. They're in a really nice area, actually, but it is pretty far away from the town center. So staying at my brother's place, super convenient, super nice. It's awesome because he lives only about a 10-minute walk away from the beach. So one of the things that my wife and I did almost every morning, and sometimes in the evening as well, we got up and we walked to the beach. There's this huge lake that is in my hometown called Okanagan Lake. It's over 100 kilometers long. It's really long. It's narrow. It's not very wide. It's only maybe a kilometer wide, but it's very, very long. So it's just an amazing place to do any kind of water sports in the summer. And for us, that meant swimming. My wife these days is obsessed with swimming. She's been learning swimming and taking swimming lessons for the last year or so. And so she was excited to do some freshwater swimming because I don't think she's had too many experiences doing that here in Korea. I think I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but there aren't so many opportunities to do freshwater swimming. There's just like not too many lakes or good rivers where you can actually swim here in Korea. But Canada is the opposite situation. We have lots of opportunities to do that. And so every morning we'd walk down to the beach and it was great. There's this nice beach in Kelowna called Gyro Beach. And if by chance you ever do get a chance to visit Canada and go to Kelowna, I'd recommend Gyro Beach. That's where we hung out. There is a nice sandy beach, so you can do the classic beach thing, lay down your beach towel, and we would bring our books and do some reading. My wife had this really cool book that was like a waterproof book. I don't know, it's like this new style of paper where it doesn't seem like really plasticky or anything, but it's waterproof. So I was a little bit jealous because I was reading this like paper book, and you know, your books always get beat up on the beach, right? They're getting hit with the sand. Sometimes they're getting a little bit wet, and yeah, they get very weathered when you take a book to the beach. But my wife's kind of new style of book was really cool, this waterproof book. And I wonder if she even took it into the lake with her. I have to ask. I think she did, but I can't remember. But yeah, a really kind of cool new book technology coming out of Korea. I've never seen this kind of book, waterproof book before. But anyways, yeah, we did a lot of swimming at the beach and a lot of hanging out. My wife was interested in tanning, so she's lying out in the sun. And I'm not a tanner, I'm a burner. So unfortunately, I couldn't join her. I had to spend most of my time under the shade of some of the trees that are there, but there are nice trees along the beach too that do provide some shade from the sun. So yeah, I could hang out in the shade and do some reading. And it's really unfortunate. I would love to lie in the sun like my wife is able to, and like so many other people were sun tanning and sunbathing on the beach. But even if I apply sunscreen, I just burn too quickly. So I got to stay away from the sun. That's my lot in life. That's what I have to do. So that was really like our main activity, just kind of relaxing, going to the beach. But we did do some other fun things as well. One of the fun activities that we did with my whole family, except for my brother because he had to go to work, was mini golf. And I think I previewed this a while ago and told you here maybe on Culips that one of the things that I was looking forward to doing in Kelowna was going mini golfing. Because, yeah, in Korea here, it's not really a thing. For whatever reason, I don't know why, but I haven't ever seen a mini golf course here in Korea. And if any Koreans are listening and you guys know about a mini golf course, let me know because it's really fun. I enjoy playing and I would like to do it here too, but I haven't found one ever before in Korea. So I was really excited about going in Kelowna and introducing my wife to this activity. And also it's kind of like a fun activity that you can do with your parents and with your family as well. So we decided to go mini golfing, and there's a place in Kelowna called Scandia Golf and Games, which is like this old school arcade / mini golf course. Actually, they have 2 mini golf courses. They have go-karts. They have batting cages so you can practice baseball, you know, playing baseball, and they have the pitching machines and you can practice your batting. All of these kind of like fun activities that kids like to do and that are good for families. And it's an institution in Kelowna, Scandia. It's been there probably before I was born. It's really old, probably like 40, 50 years old. And I grew up going there as a kid. We used to have birthday parties there, play the arcade games and play mini golf. So I got good memories from checking out Scandia in the past. And yeah, wanted to take my wife there and introduce it to her. So we decided to go mini golfing. The weather was beautiful the day that we went. It was really hot, but beautiful weather. And so because of that, we decided to do the outdoor golf course. There are two. There's an indoor golf course and an outdoor golf course. And for those of you who don't know what mini golf is, guys, essentially it's just like a putting course. So at this golf course, there are 18 holes, but they're all really short. They're like maybe 50 meters long, and you don't hit with like a driver. You just use a putter. And the goal is that you have to try and just putt the ball into the hole. Very simple concept with golf, but there are different obstacles on a mini golf course. So there might be some bumps in the middle of the course that you have to kind of putt your ball around, or there might be some uphill sections, or there are even some sections where you have to like putt your ball into a windmill. And then depending on the path that it goes into the windmill, then it will shoot out in a different area of the golf course and come out of one of these little tubes. Some of the tubes are close to the hole, so if you hit it in the right spot exactly, then you almost get a hole in one. And sometimes the ball goes in the opposite direction, really far away from the hole where you want the ball to go. And I'll try and share some pictures. I think my wife and I, we took a lot of pictures, so I'll post some to Instagram, to our Discord, and I'll share some in the YouTube video as well, so you guys can put a visual to what I'm trying to explain here with my words. I hope I'm doing a good job. I hope this is clear about what I'm talking about. But yeah, anyways, mini golf with the family. We decided to play the outdoor course, and my dad played, my sister played, my wife played, I played, and my mom was the scorekeeper. She didn't want to play. She just wanted to keep score. So that was cool. And it was super fun. It was really, really fun. We had a blast playing. I think 18 holes is a long time to play. By the time we got to the end, like around maybe hole, I don't know, 13, 14, everybody was kind of like, okay, we could wrap things up here. It's really fun for about an hour, but after it goes on for over an hour, it gets a little bit difficult. It was also really hot that day. And yeah, my parents are in their 70s, so I felt a little bit bad about them having to be outside, but thankfully there was a lot of shade and some benches where they could sit down and take a break. And I was going into the game with a lot of confidence. I thought, for sure, I'm going to be, a pretty good mini golfer here. I'll be able to show my sister and my wife and my dad a thing or two and be the champion of the golf game. But like most things in life, if you let your ego get to you and you have a lot of pride in your abilities and you're not humble, then what ends up happening? You end up losing. And so I was humbled. Everybody humbled me. I was the loser, unfortunately. I came so close so many times to getting like a hole in one, or came really close to doing these amazing putts, but I was always off just by a little bit. And yeah, I didn't do very well. So I think, if I recall correctly, my wife was the winner, and then it was my dad, and then my sister, and then I was the loser. So because I was the loser, my penalty was to pay for the mini golf. So that was all right. That was all right. And yeah, we all had a really great time and just so much fun. So yeah, again, if you've never tried mini golf before and you need a fun family activity to do, and you kind of like that style of activity, being outside and playing sports with your family and having a little competition and a little fun, then definitely I would recommend mini golf. Kind of seems similar to bowling. If you've ever gone bowling with your family and had that kind of cool family activity, mini golf is in the same vein. It's similar to doing that. So yeah, that was one of the highlights of the trip, was that mini golf day out with my family. After that, we went out for dinner together to a family restaurant. We just had a nice day spending some time together. Other than that, what were some of the other funny things or fun things from our time in Kelowna? One thing that was kind of funny was, after several days of eating just Canadian food, my wife, who I mentioned is Korean, she's like, okay, the food that we're eating here is really good. Your parents are cooking us delicious food. The restaurants are delicious. Everything is good. But after a few days, she missed Korean food. And actually, me too. I was like, man, I just want to eat some rice and some Korean food. It's like, for whatever reason, it's real. After a few days of just eating a different kind of diet than you're used to, you sort of start to crave and miss the food that you're used to eating every day. And so one day when we were walking back home from one of our beach trips, we passed a sushi restaurant. It wasn't Korean food, unfortunately, but sushi seemed like really good. You know, Japanese food is maybe the closest in relationship to Korean food in some ways, even though they're totally different. But yeah, there's rice involved at least, right? So my wife was like, hey, how about we go to the sushi restaurant? And I was like, yeah, that sounds great. So let's do it. We looked on Google Maps. The reviews were good. So we went into the sushi restaurant and it was kind of funny. Like my wife and I were sitting there. It was lunchtime. We were eating lunch. There were some other customers around as well. And we were just like looking in the menu. And my wife was sort of asking me about the menu because, of course, it's all in English. And some of the fish names, you know, like they use the Japanese name, but then they change it to English. So she was asking me about some of the fish, like what type of fish is this? And I was explaining it to her in Korean. And the server came over to us while she was asking me these questions. So I was like kind of translating the menu for her into Korean, and the server was just standing there. And then finally, she started talking to us in Korean. Because even though this was a sushi restaurant and a Japanese restaurant, the owners were Korean and the staff were Korean. And so that was kind of funny. Like, I don't know. It's kind of awkward because she didn't know, oh, should I approach these guys in Korean or English? And yeah, it was kind of funny. So that felt comfortable for us too. We were like, oh, wow, we can speak a little bit of Korean. And she was asking us about like what we were doing there, why we were visiting Kelowna, and telling us that we got really lucky with our trip. And I think we did, guys, because usually over the last like few years, the summers in Kelowna are what we call fire season. And this is really something that's true for the whole west coast of North America. These days in the summer, it's so dry that forest fires happen really, really easily. And even if they don't happen directly in Kelowna, anywhere within like hundreds of kilometers, if there's a big forest fire, the smoke will get blown into the area and it just makes for really smoky, polluted, cloudy looking air. And so that's kind of gross and just not very nice. And it really masks all of the beautiful scenery as well. So the server there at the restaurant was telling us, oh, you guys got so lucky. You have a beautiful summer, clear blue skies, no smoke, no smoky smell. And she said last year was really terrible and difficult. But anyways, that was funny and a kind of fun experience. And I always like it. Like personally, it's fun to do that kind of experience for me, like to talk in Korean with Korean people, surprisingly in Canada, because I think they really don't get too many customers like that. And so, yeah, that's always a little bit of a fun experience for me. To be honest, people in Korea are also a little bit shocked if you speak to them in Korean as a foreigner. It's just not the expectation, right? Like 99.9% of people who aren't Korean around the world can't speak Korean. So if you are one of those small minorities of a foreigner who can speak the Korean language, then it's always a little bit shocking. And I'm not like saying my Korean is perfect or fluent or anything. I'm still learning. I'm still in the trenches right alongside with you guys, learning our second language. But it's fun to practice. And that was just a cool and sort of funny experience like that we had. And I have to say, the lunch was fantastic. So we had a great sushi lunch. It hit the spot. It didn't really satisfy that craving that we had for Korean food, but it was close enough. And yeah, a delicious lunch. So we really enjoyed that. And I think the rest of the time that we spent in Kelowna was just doing much of the same, going to the beach, hanging out with family, and doing that kind of thing. Nothing else too special to report back to you. Just taking some R&R time. R&R stands for rest and relaxation. So trying to get in some R&R. And I think looking back at things, mission accomplished. We were able to do that. And we had a great time in Kelowna. The next stage of our journey was going to Alberta and visiting Banff, and finally flying out of Calgary back to Seoul. But I have a lot of stories to tell you about that, and I won't get into it this week. I'll save it for next week's episode. So everyone, I think I will wrap things up here. Thank you for making it all the way to the end of this lesson. Thank you for studying with me. Thank you for listening to my stories. All of these things, I really do appreciate it. And because you made it all the way to the end, I want to reward you with this week's completion code. You can flex this completion code in the comments on our YouTube page, on our Instagram page, or on our Discord. And this will signal and show other members of the Culips community that you were able to study with this episode. You made it all the way to the end. You did it. And yeah, you can be proud of that. So the completion code for this week, let's make it mini, M-I-N-I. And the reason I'm going to make it mini is because I went mini golfing with my family in Kelowna while I was there. So you have the completion code mini. You know what to do. Leave either just the word, just a comment with mini, or you could write a bigger example sentence and try and use this word mini in a fun or creative way, and leave your example sentences in the comments. And yeah, I'm looking forward to reading those and seeing what you come up with. All right. So it's time for me to take off. Thanks again for listening. Please have a great week full of happy English learning up ahead. Take care as always, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Bye-bye.